Hey there, Tad Hargrave from Marketing for Hippies. Just got off a puttering session with a woman who does yoga for bigger bodies. And so I'm just out for a walk, thought I'd record this. George Cow's giving me shit for not stopping, making people queasy with my my video, so I may sit down at some point. But it was the most beautiful conversation. So this woman, she has a bigger body, and has for most of her life, and she has been overjoyed in a way to find this as a niche that she could, much like a colleague of mine in Toronto, Tina Veer, with yoga for round bodies, overjoyed that she could teach yoga classes for people who have bigger bodies where the poses haven't been adapted, and help them. So of course this is wonderful, but there's all sorts of concerns that come up, which I won't go into, but a fear of being pigeonholed, this type of thing. And I think a lot of us have this, the fear that, well, if I pick this modality, if I pick this target market, what if I change? What if I'm no longer that in the future? What if I want to do something else? And we get this holds a lot of people back from figuring out their niche. But as we talked, one of the things that came up was that in her work there was this balance of challenge but safety, that it was so important. And of course so much of us have trauma, and it's doing any of this kind of personal growth work, or in her case, people with bigger bodies, there may just be trauma associated with it. And so how do you, I'm going to sit down, there you go, George. There's going to be trauma associated with it, and of course the trauma has consequences on one's hormones, which has effects on how the body deals with fat, etc. And so that for people with bigger bodies who may have some interest in losing some of that weight, the classes have to be safe. They have to put people's nervous systems at ease, and over enough time that one could, first of all, enjoy the practice, but also, if you're trying to lose weight by stressing about it, this is so counterproductive. This kind of constant fear and shame and self-hatred is not a good strategy for anyone to do anything. And yet, there is the other side of it, which is pushing ourselves. And it just became so clear that so much of her work was about self-love, about helping these people love themselves in her classes, and that the safety, the full acceptance is a form of self-love, but so is the push and the challenge. So I had her just reflect on that. I said, could you take a few minutes just to write down how that just seems like a constant human tension. I think most traditional cultures around the world have been in some way based on the wrestling with that culture-making question. What's the balance between the medicine of challenge and the medicine of safety and relaxing? And so she did some writing. She shared things which were just brilliant, were just so good. I thought she nailed it. And I said, yeah, that's the kind of stuff you can share in your social media. Yes, you can share stuff about the, yoga for bigger bodies and the mechanics of that and the philosophy of it and your thoughts on weight and, all of that. That's legit to share, and thoughts on yoga in general. But she could also be sharing a lot of her thoughts about self-love and about this intersection of challenge and safety and pushing oneself, but also resting, and how the comfort zone can become extremely uncomfortable if you sit there too long. You lie in a comfy bed, there's a certain point your body starts to ache from the comfort, and if you push yourself too hard, you can just incinerate yourself and burn yourself out. And I said, my guess is, here you are talking about yoga for bigger bodies, and yet there might be people who struggle in other ways, who hear this message about self-love and about trying to find the balance of pushing yourself but also resting, and who might just love that, who might resonate with it and find some kind of kinship that you weren't expecting. And there may come a day where you decide to branch out beyond yoga. And because it fits in this larger umbrella, if you've gotten my starter kit or been to my day-long workshop, then you're familiar with what I talk about as the bigger why. Simon Sinek writes about it so well. And that the bigger why is like a cause that your business is about. And that your modality may change, but that the bigger why doesn't change. So in her case, self-love is the bigger theme, and so she's doing yoga, but she may do women's retreats eventually. She may do skydiving teaching, and still that's about self-love, and it won't be so confusing to people because that's what she's been talking about the whole time anyways. That self-love and the balance of testing oneself but also resting oneself, that balance can be applied in a lot of different arenas. So anyways, you can tell I'm delighted by her work. I'm delighted by her and what she's up to in the world, and I thought it was such a good example. I said, you've got the boat is yoga, Island A is people with bigger bodies, and I said, so we know those two things, and that's the beginning. But I said, well, now we also know the bigger thing, about the self-love, and there's probably a lot of point of view in that to articulate, and that's what you can talk about on social media. And she was just, I'm so excited. She could hardly wait to get off the call to start writing about these things. And then she said, she also said, I don't like writing. I'm not very good at writing stuff. I'm better in conversation. And for me, you may have noticed, I love writing. It's kind of my jam. Some people, it's not. I said, if you like to just talk, get interviewed on podcast. Host your own podcast where you can interview other people and just have a good conversation. You could ask people on Instagram to send you questions, or on Facebook, or your email list to send you questions, and then you take those questions and make videos out of them. And then if you want, at a certain point in an interview or a video, if you think you like I nailed it there, you could send that to a company like internettranscribers.com, which I've used for years, though there's lots of other ones, and just get it transcribed, clean it up, turn that into a Facebook post. Talking about self-love, why make yourself do a kind of marketing that you hate? It's not a very self-loving thing to do, to push yourself, if you're an introvert, to go to networking meetings all the time. Part of self-love has got to be even the way that we choose to market. Okay, I've gone on long enough. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please share it up in wherever it makes sense to share these things in your life. And you can subscribe, hit the red button, and then if you haven't seen my video, the day-long workshop I do, you can just go to marketingforhippies.com. You'll see the starter kit. It'll be pretty obvious. And Instagram at marketingforhippies. Take care, everyone.